are accusing the government of misusing the military on the ongoing security operation in the country.
Well, Internal Security Minister Kato Olemetito had a hard time defending the decision to involve the Kenya Defence Forces in Baragoy and Garissa following the recent attacks. And as KTN's Noah Otieno reports, the minister caused quite a stir when he admitted that security agencies were ill-equipped to deal with insecurity during next year's election.
The minister to confirm to the nation.
The latest wave of insecurity in the country triggered a heated debate that at one point nearly degenerated into a shouting match between Speaker Kenneth Marende and the MP for Dugis, Aden Duale.
The council authorized the Kenya Defence Forces to be deployed in Samburu County and other areas alongside Kenya Police Services to assist the police in apprehending the bandits and recover the stolen animals and arms.
What has just happened in Baragoy and Garissa for that matter opens a window where any rogue individual will get the military to the streets to fight helpless Kenyans. Or it is meant to open a window where military will be used, including at the time of elections, wherever there is skirmishes, to stop Kenyans from electing their leader.
A minister, if he wishes to give a ministerial statement, is at liberty to do so. But as to whether or not he can use that ministerial to justify breach of the Constitution is an important matter on which I will give directions, as indeed I'm under duty to do.
What has happened to the intelligence? Was this not known to the intelligence entity in the Republic of Kenya? And what actions? Why has it? Why did the government not detect that there were elements, criminal elements, who were out to cause havoc within the communities of Kenya?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will even go further and bring a substantive motion against the government of Kenya over the death of our people. I promise you that.
Just bring it.
I promise you that, Mr.
Speaker. Will be within the rules, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I promise you that we will bring a substantive motion against this government over the death of our people.
MPs demanded to know what went wrong in Baragoy and why local chiefs were involved in planning the police operation, which turned tragic.
When the minister says casually, oh, this community is raiding that one, the other one is raiding the other village, I mean, it looks very casual and looks like it's business as usual. When is this going to stop being business as usual?
Why would you deploy, or why would you set such young, inexperienced police officers to a terrible rugged terrain such as Suguta Valley?
It's just that the terrain, one, was terrible in Suguta Valley or Baragoy. Number two, the ambush. The ambush, when placed on these officers, it is a trap.
The Internal Security Minister has, however, raised the alarm that the security agencies are ill-equipped to secure the nation during the electioneering period.
I kindly request that enough resources be allocated to the security agencies to be able to deal with these heightened tensions as we approach to this general election, Mr. Speaker.
The police department has committed to providing burial assistance and counseling for families of officers slain in Suguta Valley in Baragoy. Noah Otieno, KTN PRIME.
Well, so members of parliament have ventilated, and we'd love for you to do the same tonight. We are asking you on our big question: do you think the government has adequately handled the security situation in the country? Do you think the government has adequately handled the security situation in the country? We'd love to know what you think. The number to SMS your comment is yes, is 8040, of course, beginning the yes or no. Plus, put in a brief comment. We'd also love to know your name and where you're texting in from.
Well, still on matters security, the death toll in the Garissa skirmishes has now risen to 2 as riots following a clash with security forces entered its second day. A local chief succumbed to gunshot injuries at the Garissa Provincial Hospital just this afternoon, and tension is reportedly still high in the town. Well, KTN's Eric Njoka now joins us from Garissa with the very latest update. Over to you, Eric Njoka.
Well, it's a few minutes after 9 p.m. right here in Garissa town, and a sense of uneasy calm has returned. However, we've experienced mixed commotions during the day. At one point, youth stoning KDF soldiers and them returning fire. At the end, scampering and a lot of helter-skelter running around in the town. But that came to stand Well, we spoke to the County Commissioner, Malim Mohammed, who confirmed to us that the KDF soldiers are still going to conduct the house-to-house search, looking for the killers, of course. He says that it is their mandate to do the house-to-house search, looking for these killers, and they're also going to conduct a registry for all the residents here in Garissa, just to find out who are the aliens in this town and to just find out who are the killers for that matter. What is happening now is that the KDF soldiers have been given the mandate, actually, that this evening all places should be searched, according to the county commissioner, who also adds that this is a security situation in the town, and this should be controlled. Well, I earlier packaged this story on the happenings of the day. I would like you, the viewer, to watch. Midday Wednesday, life slowly returns in Garissa. Several residents here still opting to work indoors following 2 days of violence elicited by the killing of 3 Kenyan soldiers by unidentified assailants. But the unrest was evident when rowdy youth stormed a military vehicle conducting its patrol, prompting the soldiers to fire in the air, forcing some residents to scamper for safety.
The kind of destruction, actually the economy of this town has been interrupted very seriously.
Minutes later, the county commissioner organized a baraza with the residents in a bid to calm them down, even in the watch of the police and some KDF soldiers. At the hospital, crowded wards as relatives check on their loved ones. Already, 2 of the victims of the riots have been taken to the Kenyatta National Hospital for specialized treatment. The others who remained here at the Garissa Provincial Hospital are still nursing their injuries.
Mimi nimebeba watoto kidogo, nimefunga hapa, nimetoroka kidogo, nimepiga risasi hapa, nimetoka hapa, nimeanguka, nimepita tena gari, hapa mguu umefunjika mbaya.
When you receive patients for the first time with injuries, there is something called the primary survey. After the primary survey, we do a secondary survey, then we have a tertiary survey. Currently, we are in the phase of the tertiary survey, whereby we are again re-examining the injuries and seeing further management procedures that are applicable to them.
Also in the hospital is this man, who we were later told is the chief of this area. He lies helpless in the hospital bed, nursing a gunshot wound to his thigh. He succumbed to his injuries hours later. His death created tension in the hospital as family and residents openly expressed their anger.
Tafadhali sana, kama unataka amani, ondoa hawa jeshi yako hapa. Waende huko wapigane huko Somalia, ama waende mahali nyingine wapigane. Hatuwataki hawa.
The voter registration exercise has also been affected. Some polling stations empty. At the time we visited this polling station, only 54 people had registered since this scuffles began. Well, what I can say right now is that the residents here are very uncomfortable with the presence of the KDF soldiers, who they claim have tortured them, have raped them, have hurt them. What they want the government to do is to have a quick response to this security situation in Garissa town, and a quick word to the residents, just to calm them down and also to convince them that this will be dealt with. Back to you in studio.
Correct. Thank you very much, Eric Njoka. Now, he has mentioned the presence of the KDF in Garissa, and that has been the topic of much controversy and debate. And the Kenya Defence Forces, through their information officer, Colonel Cyrus Oguna, has sent a statement denying the accusations against the force. Now, in the statement, the KDF categorically denies any involvement in criminal activity, and they particularly say such as rape, torture, looting, killing of women, children, and burning businesses and residential property in Garissa. Now, the KDF further terms these claims as malicious lies crafted to taint the credibility of the KDF. The Defence Forces has also stated that their role in the entire incident was limited on Sunday, saying that while they did have a platoon indeed sent to help look for the gunmen who shot their colleagues, it was actually the police who carried out the search. Colonel Oguna further clarified that the military has been deployed in Garissa and other locations in the country since independence, and so they were not deployed there since they've already they've been there. The KDF, however, said that it's preparing a detailed report on the incident in Garissa.
Well, thank you, Edith. And of course, we'll remind you that Eric Njoka will stay in Garissa town, bringing us all the updates there every day until the situation returns back to normal. Now, amid the row over KDF concerns is also growing over the now frequent attacks on the security agents themselves. Experts are now warning that the brazen attacks on soldiers and police officers could worsen as the country approaches the elections. So just what makes the officers such a soft target? KTN senior reporter Aaron Ochieng takes a closer look.
They stand as the symbol of security in the country, but now this arm of the state is under siege. In the last 2 months alone, over 50 police officers have lost their lives while on duty. Most of the officers met their deaths in Samburu, Tana River and Garissa, as well as in Mombasa and Nairobi. All of them killed while undertaking the difficult task of providing national security. They died dealing with terror, banditry, robberies, and the perennial cattle rustling menace. Analysts say the alarming statistics paint a picture of an intimidated and vulnerable police force.
That the voice of civil society in these criminal acts that has targeted security personnel have not been heard. While they are quick to champion the cause of civilians, it has left the committee wondering why they have not raised their voice to the security personnel, and do hereby ask, are policemen, soldiers and members of this force lesser human beings?
Of greater concern is the seeming breakdown in communication between the National Police Service and the National Intelligence Service, as well as the provincial administration and police reserves.
The government's careless and carefree attitude towards its law enforcement agencies, seeing them as dispensable tools to be used as and when the need arises.
Police officers have been killed in gangland-style ambushes and attacks, indicating that there is a gap in terms of intelligence gathering and communication between troops on the ground and their commanders. And there is more.
Security agencies are underfunded by 48% of the budget required. We requested for 125 billion this financial year, and we were only allocated 65.
The recent attacks puts to question police tactics and whether their training takes into consideration the realities of the difficult terrains that they operate in. Further questions on the provision of necessary equipments, including vehicles, to facilitate their work.
We are appealing to government within a week or so to make sure that the senior Kenyans in uniform and the junior Kenyans in uniform have their legitimate trade union organization.
They operate under the slogan Utumishi kwa wote, meaning service to all. But it is while responding to this slogan that puts the lives of the law enforcers at risk while protecting the lives of the citizens. Aaron Ochieng, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, as Aaron has rightly mentioned, the wave of insecurity has really been targeted and focused on the police or security agents in general. But if you remember correctly, this wave began in the Tana Delta a few months ago, and now a new report is pointing fingers at businessmen and politicians for allegedly funding the clashes that left over 100 people dead. The report by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights recommends swift investigations of the named individuals. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabwa has more.
In the wake of the Tana Delta crisis witnessed in August, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights sent a team to the region to find out just what ails the Tana Delta. It emerged that a level of planning had gone into the crisis, which led to the deaths of over 100 residents. The attackers are reported to have worn distinct clothing for identification purposes, and each played a distinct role. Residents who were questioned further claimed that the chaos had been financed by persons known to them.
We did get to hear clearly that there were businessmen, very, very clear. That came out clearly. On the issue of politicians, there was a mention, but when we heard that mention, we were very insistent as a commission that we must further verify that.
The human rights body found that the unrest in the region had been fueled mostly by negative ethnicity, the scramble for resources, and the proliferation of small arms.
Key among these injustices are issues relating to land tenure and systematic marginalization of the region.
According to the report, nearly 20,000 people were displaced from Kau, Riketa, Kilelengwani, Chamwana-Muma, Semikaro, Nduru and Shirikisho villages. 668 houses were burnt, while 458 heads of cattle and 600 goats were stolen during the period that the human rights body has dubbed 29 Days of Terror. Key recommendations in the report included that the police service investigate perpetrators of human rights violations and that provincial administration undertake peace building in areas hardest hit by the clashes. Meanwhile, Defence Minister Yusuf Haji was today called upon to testify in a case where Galole Member of Parliament Dado Godana is accused of making utterances perceived to have amounted to incitement to violence. Haji told Chief Magistrate Waweru Kiarie that while he was aware of the allegations levelled against the MP, he had not received confirmation from the police. The Defence Minister further told the court that he did not visit the troubled Tana Delta region during his term as Acting Internal Security Minister. The Galole Member of Parliament stands accused of instigating the violence in Tana River County through his utterances. Wilkis Anyabwa, KTN Prime.
Now, of course, this report by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is pretty damning, and if the 2008 report on the brink of the precipice is anything to go by, well, let's watch out for what comes out of this. Let's move on to voter registration. Today, of course, is Wednesday, day 3 of voter registration. How long does it take you to register? 10 minutes is the amount of time that the registration of one voter is supposed to take using the biometric voter registration kits. This, however, has not been the case for some voters countrywide, with the number of BVR kits malfunctioning just 3 days into the process. The security situation in some parts of the country has not helped either. KTN's Asha Mwilu has our updates on the voter registration process.
Day 3 and the biometric voter registration process was picking pace. Registration centers in most regions recording higher turnouts than the previous days. For other regions such as the coast, the numbers were still low. The hitches with the BVR kits were yet again the order of the day for some centers, voters having to queue for hours with a number of machines failing to work.
Kufika hapa nasikia karatasi zilikuwa 49 na hakuna zingine tena zimeisha.
Sasa tunashindwa, were they not prepared for the big number because very many people are coming to register.
Some of these kits, yes, they malfunctioned a little bit. There was an issue of the password. Some clerks even punched in the wrong code. So again, you know, when you punch the wrong code, the machine locks itself, so you can't open. You'd need technical people to come and unlock it.
IEBC acknowledges that some 49 BVR kits had some defects and will have to be shipped back to the supplier. In the meantime, the Commission says it will cope with what it has and asks for the voters' patience in the process.
The kits can register up to 50, at a minimum, up to 50 people in a day. And the reports we are getting is that some kits are doing as many as 100 people and more. So we are optimistic that it is really going to peak. We are only experiencing these teething problems, if I may say.
So I believe as they continue, it's going to be easier and they're going to catch up. And also bearing in mind these are new gadgets.
Insecurity in some of the unstable areas has also cost the Commission some time, and now with the tensions dying down, IEBC says it's working to recover ground in Samburu, Garissa and Nairobi's Eastleigh.
In Garissa, our officers were able to open the stations, the registration centers at 8 a.m.
What worries IEBC, however, is misinformation among some members of the public.
We want to clarify this to every Kenyan, to all Kenyans, that where you register is where you are going to cast your vote, and there will be no movement from one place to another.
This, the Commission says, will eliminate chances of double registration. You have exactly 27 days left to register yourself as a voter for the March 4th general election. And the message from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is very clear that although there has been challenges with the BVR kits, let these hiccups not be an excuse for you not to go to the registration center before the deadline expires. Ashamwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, in Kisii, the wrangles between the two rival teachers' unions took a violent turn as officials exchanged blows over membership. The clash at a hotel was sparked off by a section of teachers who sought to defect from the older union, that's NAT. Angel Katusia has more of this story.
It started with a disruption of a press meeting, then angry arguments, and then the violent physical action. And for about 20 minutes, members of the two teachers' unions, NAT and KUPPET, exchanged blows in what has become a superiority contest between the two teachers' unions. It is a feud that has silently existed for long over representation in the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The press conference had been called by NAT, Acting National Secretary General Maina Nyamu, at a Kisii hotel to welcome over 80 teachers from KUPPET who were defecting to NAT. But the KUPPET officials could not take it, accusing NAT of bribing the members to defect.
Tumekuja hapa kusema na kutetea haki ya mwalimu mnyonge, na kwa hivyo hiyo itaendelea mpaka mwisho. Lazima nijenge chama changu.
Kisii District Commissioner, who was at the hotel, called the police as the situation threatened to get out of hand. In the drama, 3 KUPPET officials from Kisii branch were arrested and taken to Kisii police station, where they spent hours before they were released on a 10,000 shillings cash bail each. When the dust settled, NAT received the defectors who denied they had been induced to join NAT. NAT has blamed the government for the formation of KUPPET, which they say has weakened their voice in fighting for teachers. Angel Katuse, KTN Prime.
Let's bring you the latest in the political front. Remember, we have an election coming up in March next year. Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka and Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi are yet to strike a deal for next year's election. The technical team that's working on a proposed alliance, however, says it's close to reaching an agreement that could see the two contest the presidency on a joint ticket. KTN's Catherine Omwando reports on these and others in our political wrap.
The contents of the brief are such that we want the country to buy into an alliance that does not represent.
A real deal between Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper Party and Musalia Mudavadi's United Democratic Front remains in the works by a technical team formed to chart a way forward on the unity. The deal has remained elusive, with both Kalonzo and Mudavadi remaining adamant that they will both be on the ballot in the next year's general elections. Elsewhere, the Orange Democratic Movement has received 25 defectors from the Democratic Party. The group, led by Charles Tay Charo, the chairman of DP in Nyamira County, claimed that they are in agreement with ODM's manifesto and the party's defense of the constitutional implementation process.
But because we have discovered that the party that we are in has lost some direction, we are not clear of who is running for the top seat. So that sense of losing direction is what has made us to come here and join the Orange Democratic Party.
William
As ODM received DP defectors, it lost Beatrice Coness to William Ruto's United Republican Party. The Bomet Member of Parliament joined URP, claiming that she was under pressure from her supporters. Coness was received by Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto.
It's you who will define the destiny of achieving Vision 2030.
And the National Congress Party leader, Peter Kenneth, was at the University of Nairobi School of Law, where he raised concern over the rising insecurity in the country. Restore and Build Kenya Party presidential hopeful Professor James Ole Kiapi has called on the electorate to elect credible leaders with integrity and the ability to unite the country.
Number 2, watu wa Kenya waungane. Watu wa Kenya wafanye nini? Waungane.
He decried the current high rate of unemployment and alcohol consumption among the youth. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Welcome back. You're watching KTN PRIME.
Well, to some medical news now, and a new UN report says that HIV infections in countries such as Kenya have declined by nearly half in just a decade.
The report says that Kenya is among the countries that have successfully reduced the number of infants getting HIV infections from their mothers.
But as KTN's Answer Wendy reports, the patients, though, still have to contend with stigma.
The report will be good news to health officials who've been fighting to tame the virus that causes AIDS. The report suggests that HIV infection and AIDS deaths declined, while the use of antiretroviral drugs and commitments of domestic funding to HIV programs increased. Releasing the report in Geneva, Switzerland, UNAIDS Executive Director Michelle Sidibe said increasing political will to fight HIV was paying off.
We are already achieving the Millennium Development Goal of halting and reversing the AIDS epidemic. New HIV infections and AIDS-related deaths are declining.
25 countries recorded a drop by half in new HIV infections annually compared to 10 years ago. In sub-Saharan Africa, the region with the biggest burden of HIV, new infections reduced from 2.4 million in 2001 to 1.8 million last year. AIDS deaths also dropped from a high of 1.8 million in 2005 to 1.2 million last year. Kenya, Burundi, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia and Togo reduced by a quarter the number of infants who contracted HIV from their mothers in just 24 months.
The pace of progress is a quickening. What we used to take a decade is now being achieved in just 24 months.
The number of people living with HIV and accessing antiretroviral drugs also went up in 10 African countries. In Kenya, now 3 out of every 5 people who need ARVs get them. Kenya's neighbors, Somalia, South Sudan, and further south, Madagascar, remain below 20% in their coverage of ARVs. And unlike Botswana and South Africa that are funding their HIV programs domestically by up to 75%, Kenya still depends on donor money for almost all of her HIV expenditure. Stigma remains the biggest challenge, with about 3 out of every 5 Kenyans living with HIV reporting being abused on the basis of their status. Ansu Mwendia, KTN Prime.
Well, KANU Chairman Gideon Moi says the government should empower residents of Turkana region on the utilization of oil resources following its discovery.
Moi says locals should no longer live in poverty following the oil discovery.
The KANU chairman was in Lodwar, Turkana, to popularize KANU in the county ahead of the March 2013 polls. At a public rally at Moi Garden Stadium, Moi urged the locals to vote for KANU, saying the party would bring meaningful change.
Hivi karibuni utasikia ndio nani ambayo tutashirikiana pamoja, alafu tutapigania as a coalition. Ile kitu tu hatutaki kwa chama ni vile mandugu zangu walisema, hatutaki ile chama ya makabila.
With the voter registration exercise currently underway, Moi emphasized the need for locals to come out in numbers and register.
Tungependa watu waendelee na registration. So there should not be disruption of our people during this registration exercise. Kwa sababu hii kura ambayo itatoka mwezi ya 3 ni kura ambayo itakuwa muhimu sana kwa nchi ya Kenya.
On the recent discovery of oil in the region, Moi called on the government to empower the local population in order to utilize the resources.
Welcome to KTN Business Today. The Kenya Revenue Authority is tightening the noose on property owners and landlords. The authority says it's tendering for a database that will help it map out those in the real estate sector. This will enable the taxman to match declarations made with the income to ensure tax compliance.
The Kenyan property market has for some time now been booming. This has offered investors great returns on their initial investments as the property value and rental incomes continue to soar. With a 1 trillion shilling target to collect this year, KRA has been adamant that the rental incomes as well as property transaction is a key source of revenue. The idea is to enable the taxman collect tax on rental income from landlords who have hitherto escaped their radar.
If the government, the Ministry of Lands or the Directorate of Service had a database of property transactions that tell us who owns what is the status of development of that property, and so on and so forth, we would not be looking for anything.
While rental income has been subject to tax as an income tax since 1973, lack of data on real estate business has hampered efforts by KRA to collect its dues here. Lack of data on real estate business has hampered efforts by KRA to collect their dues. With KRA preparing soft data on landlords, fears have been expressed that this move could see some property owners hike rents to residential and commercial property. KRA is stepping up revenue collection following an increase in government expenditure occasioned by a rising wage bill and the cost of running general elections next year. The authority has also asked tenants to disclose the business details of their landlords, including the PIN number, bank accounts, adding there would be no legal repercussions for tenants who fail to do so.
We are looking for an opportunity for somebody who can be able to provide us with a database, particularly a database that contains soft information.
Alive to the fact that not all landlords will play ball, KRA has put in a policy document to encourage voluntary compliance, with concessions given to those who comply. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Kenya has agreed to buy more than 440,000 tons of oil products and 160,000 tons of Murban crude for delivery over December to January. The country's importers bought 127,720 tons of jet fuel, 126,653 tons of petrol and 189,846 tons of diesel from GAPCO and ADAX, market players told Reuters news agency. The cargoes to be delivered in late January will be priced off the new benchmark of gas oil with 500 parts per million ppm sulfur instead of the current 5,000 parts per million. The country also bought 2 crude oil cargoes of 80,000 tons each. One was from ESA Oil to be delivered over January and the 3rd and 5th, and the other from Gulf Energy for delivery over January 23rd and 25th. Kenya, which relies on imported fuel, last bought more than 450,000 tons of oil products for delivery in November and December. Kenya's economy is highly dependent on gas oil for transport, power production and farming, while many homes are using kerosene for lighting and cooking. Now, the Kenya Ports Authority plans to raise cargo handling tariffs by up to 10% to match a rise in container traffic. The authority says the increment in tariffs is set to take effect on the 1st of December 2012. The Ports Authority says the move was reached after consultations with authorities in Mombasa, Kampala, Kigali and Bujumbura last month.
The December 1st tariff reviews comes after a 6-year hiatus, as the last time the port reviewed its cargo handling tariffs was in 2007, a move that faced resistance from shipping companies. The announcement has already faced opposition from traders in Uganda, who have threatened to use alternative routes due to other challenges, such as the recent introduction of cash bonds on transit cargo destined to Uganda. However, in a Reuters report, Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Gishiri Ndua maintains that the increases this time round have won the approval of shippers in the region. In the recent past, the Port of Mombasa has been on the spotlight for civil unrest cases by dock workers over poor management conditions and remuneration. The tariff increases will affect marine services, stevedoring, shore handling and storage services among other general services. This might also raise the cost of imported goods in Kenya and across the region as importers transfer the increase to customers. However, Ndua says the additional 10% tariff will raise ports' annual revenue by up to 5% to 26 billion shillings. Container tariff at the port grew 24% in the first half of 2012, helped by improved cargo handling and a stabilizing global economy to 10.7 million tons of cargo. Boni Tunya for KTN Business Today.
Sharp Technologies and its partner Polestar have introduced an 80-inch LED TV as well as refrigerators into the Kenyan market. The company, which had slowed down in Kenya in the past few years, is projecting to grow its market share to 20% by 2014 from the current 5%, banking on the growing middle class and upmarket consumers. The introduction of the products coincides with 100 years in Sharp's participation in technology and electronics markets across the globe. So far, Sharp provides a variety of TV sets ranging from 22 inches to the latest TV set, the 80-inch TV, with prices ranging from 22,000 Kenyan shillings to 1 million shillings for that 80-inch LED TV.
The different markets, and Kenya is our first market as a gateway to the east of Africa, and that's why right now we are here first in Kenya, and then we look at Kenya and the market over here with Polestar as our entry point into east of Africa.
Chartis Insurance has rebranded to its former name 4 years on in a bid to solidify its presence in the region. The insurer, which was named Chartis in 2009, will now be operating as American International Group AIG Kenyan. Managing Director Jaffa Lende told a cocktail event last evening that the parent company had now fully recovered from the financial crisis that had hit financial institutions in America and was ready to revert Chartis to its original name. This comes 2 months after the AIG Global President Robert Shimek made a continental tour to market the rebranding process and identified Kenya as a central platform for expansion of the company's insurance products because of its upward economic progress. The company is seeking to open branches in Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi and South Sudan during the rebranding period as it moves to endear its services to the regional market. And now let's take a look at the financial markets and as well as the forex market.
Nicholas Mudimba now joins us with the day's sport. Nicholas, what should we expect?
Expect a lot. It's been a busy day for sports, and of course our best footballers in the country are being awarded. And of course the playoffs volleyball matches that is going at the Kasarani Gymnasium. We'll be giving you all that in a short while. But we start with the FOIA Awards breaker, where our players who have performed really exemplary at the Tusker Premier League have been awarded. And of course, the best midfielder went to Teddy Akumu from Gor Mahia, and then followed by Francis Kahata, Thika United, Paul Kiongera of KCB. Best defenders, it was Ivan Anguyo, Gor Mahia, Eugene Asike, Sofapaka, Joaquin Satudo, Tusker. And the best goalkeepers, Boniface Oluoch, Tusker, Jerry Munyangu, Gor Mahia, and Ben Roberts Mandela, Western Stima. And the new player of the year, number 1 was Abi Nati Kurunmi from Muhoroni Youth, and Hussein Zinda, Karuturi Sports, Edmond Murai from Oserian. Hassan Juma will be giving you all the details tomorrow from KTN Sunrise Live to KTN Live at 1 and to KTN Sports Today tomorrow. But moving on to matters volleyball. Defending men's volleyball league champions, the General Service Unit, and the women's title holders Kenya Pipeline moved closer to retaining the title, where they won their second respective matches. GSU overcame a stubborn lazy side in an action-packed match at the Kasarani Gymnasium in a match that ended 3-1 in Red Berets men's favor. Kenya Pipeline handed Nairobi Water their second successive defeat in a 3-0 victory. Kenya Pipeline next meet last year's runners-up and African champions Kenya Prisons in the repeat of last year's due. Prisons were early to book their war slot against GSU when they braved the third set onslaught to dismantle Forest Rangers 3-0 in sets of 25-16, 24-14, 31-29. Then GSU ensured a crispy end to the season when they rallied from one set down with unbelievable defensive blocks to gun down Ulinzi 3-1 in sets of 22-25, 25-23, 25-22 and 28-26. Ulinzi were awful and really looked sharp in the attacks in the first set, forcing GSU to charge ahead 6-3, but a timeout saw them even the score at 15-15. Tight blocking by centers and the dummy shots by Willie Colum saw Ulinzi take the lead at 19-18 as they went on to win the set. Ulinzi looked destined to win the second, taking the lead 4-0 courtesy of good defensive play, but a timeout slowed them as GSU picked up the pace. Solomon Bitok, Bernard Musumba and Wesley Ronon led the attacks to level at 15-15, 20-20 before winning 25-23. GSU's blocking and service were up to scratch in the last two sets.
Okay, the first set is just like the first match. So you see their strong points and weak points, and there are players who go down with the strong points of the opponent. So I was just telling them that keep it up, we shall work on their strong points, and we did in the second set.
Ile kitu tumefanya to lose your game, the defense, especially defense and defense ya katikati.
Kenya Pipeline and Kenya Prisons also cruised with wins over Nairobi Water and KCB respectively. Kenya Pipeline won 25-13, 25-18 and 25-17, while KCB were given a 3-0 defeat by Prisons. Thank you, Hassan Juma. Moving on to matters tennis. Kenya's top boys tennis players Ismail Shangawa and girl seed top seed Nikita Dauda kept the country's hope alive after they powered their way to the quarter-finals and semi-finals respectively of the ongoing International Tennis Federation Under-18 East African Circuit 1 in Mombasa. Nikita Dauda booked a semi-final ticket after her opponent Habiba Lashin of Egypt retired in the first set, with Dauda leading 4-3. The Egyptian was taken ill and was forced to leave the competition to seek treatment. In the boys' singles, seed 4 Changawa defeated 14th seed Reese Mill of South Africa 6-0 and 6-2 to the sail in the quarterfinals set for tomorrow. Changawa will play 6th seed George Harris of South Africa. In other boys' matches, top seed Courtney Locke of Zimbabwe eliminated Gassim Lansi of Yemen 6-0 and 6-4 and qualified for the quarterfinals. Second seed in South Africa's Johanna Philip was upset by 16th seed Francesco Migliano of Italy, who beat him 6-2 and 6-2. 5 individuals are fighting to win the Community Heroes title during this year's Safaricom Sportsman of the Year award. The 5 are Kenyan skiing pioneer Philip Boit, volleyball coach Paul Bitok, Alfred Onalo, Anthony Juma Ongwayo and Collins Agwangam have been nominated for the Sentimental Award. This year's Soya Gala will be held on the 6th of December at the Carnival Restaurant. Bitok, the current coach of the Rwandese volleyball teams, runs the Paul Bitok Foundation, which is based in Simad Primary in Nandi County. Foundation has helped nurture talent and exposed many volleyball players and athletes to international level. Anthony Juma Ongwayo founded Vision for Youth Talent Development Association in Nairobi's Dandora Phase 4 Estate. Collins Agwanda founded Amani na Upendo Development Group in Kisumu, a sports and educational organization in which runs Victoria Tennis Academy. And that's all for KTN Sports today. And for Chelsea fans, please be telling your coaches that they deal with a businessman. I'm Nicholas Mudimba. Have yourself a good night.